People have talked about good Pokémon with bad abilities, and bad Pokémon with good abilities, but what about the truly forsaken Pokémon? Pokémon who see not the light of Arceus. Pokémon with crushed aspirations that have been condemned to the fires of hell by the cruel arbiter of power that is Game Freak. Let's talk about bad Pokémon with bad abilities. Delibird is a notoriously terrible Pokémon. It has bad typing, no stats, and a mediocre move pool. Quite frankly, no ability could have saved Delibird. However, Delibird's abilities add insult to injury. For some reason, Delibird has both Insomnia and Vital Spirit, which both do the same thing. I get that this is a reference to Santa delivering gifts at night, but it really need two of the same ability. Insomnia and Vital Spirit aren't even that good. In singles, they're useless right now because Sleep is banned in Generation 9. It's a bit better in VGC due to the prevalence of Spore, but the existence of Safety Goggles and Terra Grass means that having immunity to sleep is nothing special. Delibird's last ability is even worse. Hustle. Again, I get the Santa connection, but Hustle on a Pokemon with 55 base attack is brutal. Not to mention that Hustle is RNG dependent too. Delibird is a great example of a Pokemon that is all theme and no competitive viability. Of all the water flying type Pokemon, Swanna is probably the most forgettable. The typing is great, but Swanna has pretty much nothing else that really distinguishes it, including its trifecta of nearly useless abilities. Firstly, it has Hydration, which is pretty bad post-Endless Weather. Rain teams are very offensive, so having a defense ability doesn't really mesh with Rain. Because it's a more hyper-offense playstyle, you'd rather be outputting a lot of damage and doing it as quickly as possible rather than just trying to stay alive yourself. Secondly is Big Pegs, which is just plain bad. Moves that lower the target's defense are pretty uncommon, but Big Pegs is even worse on Swanna because of its typing. Swanna R resists the majority of defense-lowering moves, so it's unlikely to ever be targeted by one of these moves anyway. Swanna's third ability, Keen Eye, is like Big Pegs but even more exacerbated. There are even fewer accuracy-lowering moves, and Swanna is immune to or resists half of them. Swanna basically never gets any utility out of any of its three abilities, and so it languishes in the depths of ZU. Most of the Pikachu clones are not very good, but I believe Minun is the worst among them. It's frail, weak, and not even that fast. Its abilities are likewise terrible. Volt Absorb isn't a bad ability per se. It works out pretty well for Pokemon like Lantern, but Minun is probably the worst candidate for this ability. Firstly, it already resists electric, so getting an immunity isn't very impactful. Secondly, Volt Absorb being a healing ability means that the best way to take advantage of it is to be bulky and stick around. Minun absolutely lacks longevity, so it really can't get any value out of Volt Absorb. However, Volt Absorb is still a way better ability than Minus, which was introduced as Minun's signature ability. Minus is a double specific ability that boosts the user's special attack by 50% when paired with a Pokemon with Plus. So you get both a Plus and Minus user for either to do anything. But wait, it gets worse. This is the list of Pokemon with Plus. It's pretty stark. Yeah, maybe Volt Absorb isn't so bad after all. Our next unfortunate subject is Hypno. Hypno suffers from a case of not really being good at anything in particular. It has good special bulk, but not much in its kit to complement that. Hypno has three abilities, none of which help it too much. The first is Insomnia, which I've already gone over, so I won't reiterate that. The second is Inner Focus, which actually isn't a bad ability, but it's not great on Hypno. The immunity to Flinch is always nice, especially in VGC since Fake Out is everywhere. However, the immunity to Intimidate isn't very useful when your attack stat is 73. It can't even use Belly Drum anymore, so Inner Focus is worse than ever on Hypno. Its final ability is Forewarn, which has a tight distribution and is pretty bad. Forewarn shows the user your opponent's highest base power move on switch-in. This sounds like useful information, but once you're familiar with the meta, you already know all of the likely moves your opponent will have. There's nothing helpful about switching Hypno into a fighting type just to be informed that the fighting type's most powerful move is Close Combat. In VGC, Forewarn is totally useless since open team sheets are a thing. The best forewarning I can give you is to not use Hypno, especially Hypno's Forewarn. Last but not least, just equally bad, is Wugtrio. Wugtrio answers the question, what if we made a worse Dugtrio? Wugtrio has pretty much no utility and struggles to do meaningful damage. In terms of abilities, Wugtrio is an interesting case because none of its abilities are bad, but they're all bad on Wugtrio. Firstly is Sandveil, which gives the user increased evasion in Sand. As an evasion modifier, Sandveil is banned in singles for being uncompetitive. But the fact that you have to use a Sandsetter just to support a Wugtrio of all things makes this a pretty silly choice. What the hell is this? Its other two abilities, however, are antithetical to Wugtrio's design. Wugtrio's other two abilities are Rattled and Gooey. The problem with both of these designs is that they only activate when the user gets hit. With stats like these, Wuxio gets OHKO'd by a Stiff Breeze. What's even worse is that both of these abilities provide speed control, but speed is the one thing that Wuxio already has. It doesn't need to be faster or for its foes to be slower since it already outspeeds almost everything anyway. It's a similar conundrum to Volt Absorb on Minun. Wuxio is just the worst candidate for these abilities. A big rip to all of the Pokemon in this video. Game Freak really just gave them no chance of being good. What's your favorite example of bad Pokemon with bad abilities? There are plenty more than what's in this video, so I'd love to hear your thoughts. Anyways, that's all for this video, so I'll see you next time. Take care.